The judge's gavel struck with a finality that echoed through the marble halls of the New York courthouse like a death knell. My stepmother, Elaine, shot up from her seat, her perfectly manicured hands clenched into fists as the verdict rang out. The will stood untouched, and she lost every single share of Thompson Enterprises. But as I stood there holding Aaliyah's hand for the first time in front of my entire shattered family, I knew this victory had just cost me everything I once called home. It all began 6 months earlier on a rainy October afternoon when the call came that my father, Richard Thompson, had suffered a massive heart attack at our family estate in Connecticut. I was in the middle of a board meeting at the company's Manhattan headquarters, where I had spent the last 8 years climbing the ranks as head of marketing, when my phone buzzed with the news that changed everything. I raced to the hospital, my mind spinning with memories of the man who had built Thompson Enterprises from a small shipping firm into a billion-dollar logistics empire. He had always been larger than life, strict and traditional, the kind of father who expected his only daughter to marry well, produce heirs, and carry the family name forward without question. Aaliyah and I had kept our marriage quiet for 2 years, a private ceremony in a small Vermont town with just a handful of close friends, because Dad's health had been declining and I couldn't bear to add stress to his life. He knew I was seeing someone special, but the full truth, that I had fallen deeply in love with a woman and built a life with her, remained locked away. Elaine, his second wife of 7 years, had never liked me much. She was 20 years younger than Dad, ambitious and polished, always positioning herself as the perfect society wife who could give him the son he never had. At the funeral, under gray skies at the family plot, Elaine stood beside me in black designer attire, her eyes cold as she accepted condolences. My younger brother Ryan, who ran operations at the company, gripped my shoulder tightly, whispering that we needed to stick together now more than ever. But the real storm hit 2 weeks later in the lawyer's oak-paneled office downtown. Mr. Hargrove, Dad's longtime attorney, read the will aloud. 70% of the shares and controlling interest in Thompson Enterprises went to me, Kenzie Thompson, with provisions for Ryan to retain his executive role, and Elaine to receive a generous but fixed settlement. The room froze when Elaine's lawyer immediately filed a motion to contest, citing undue influence, and claiming I was unfit to lead because my alternative lifestyle prevented me from continuing the family line. The words hit like a slap. She knew about Aaliyah somehow, probably from the private investigator she had hired months earlier. That night, back in our cozy Brooklyn brownstone, Aaliyah pulled me into her arms on the couch, her dark curls brushing my cheek as she said softly, "We don't have to do this publicly, Kenzie. We can fight the will challenge without dragging our marriage into the spotlight." But I could see the fear in her eyes, the same fear I felt twisting in my gut. The company's stock had already dipped 3% on rumors of family discord, and board members were whispering about stability. Ryan called me at midnight, his voice strained. "Sis, just meet with Elaine tomorrow. She's offering a settlement if you step back quietly. Think about the family name, the employees who depend on us." I hung up, staring at the framed photo of Aaliyah and me on our wedding day, hidden in the drawer. For the first time, the choice felt impossible. Protect the legacy Dad built or protect the love that made me whole. The next morning, I walked into the conference room at the company tower, where Elaine waited with a stack of documents and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Kenzie, darling, this doesn't have to get ugly," she purred. But I knew it already was. Elaine's proposal was simple and brutal. Renounce the majority shares in exchange for a quiet cash payout and an agreement to keep my marriage private, allowing her to manage the company through Ryan as proxy. "Your father would have wanted an heir who could actually continue the bloodline," she said, sliding the papers across the polished mahogany table, her diamond rings catching the light like weapons. I sat there in my tailored blazer, heart pounding, while Ryan avoided my gaze from the far end of the room. He had always been the golden boy, the one Dad groomed for operations, but the will had shocked him too. "It's not personal, Kenzie," he muttered later in the hallway. "The board is panicking. Investors are calling about image issues. One photo of you and Aaliyah at a Pride event could tank the stock another 10%. His words stung because I knew he was right. Thompson Enterprises wasn't just a business. It was our family's identity, built on generations of conservative values in a world that still whispered about tradition, even in 2025 New York. I drove home that evening through pouring rain, replaying every conversation with Dad in my head. He had never outright rejected the idea of me dating women, but his offhand comments about settling down properly and giving me grandkids to spoil had built walls I never dared climb until Aaliyah. She was waiting when I walked in, her chef's apron dusted with flour from the dinner she had prepared to cheer me up. "How bad was it?" she asked, pulling me close. Her touch grounded me, but the weight of the choice pressed harder. That weekend, at a quiet dinner with my closest cousin Lauren, the betrayal began. She had always been like a sister, the one I confided in about Aaliyah first. Over wine, she leaned in and said, "Kinsey, Elaine showed me the investigator's report. If this goes to court, the media will eat us alive. Dad's legacy, the company Christmas galas, our name in the society pages, it all crumbles. Can't you just not make it official right now?" Her eyes pleaded, but the fear behind them was clear. She was protecting her own position as head of HR at the firm. The following Monday, the lawsuit papers arrived by courier. Elaine was claiming the will was invalid because Dad had been pressured into favoring me while unaware of my incapacity to produce heirs, painting our marriage as a threat to the company's future stability. I met with my attorney Sarah Klein in her sleek Midtown office. "We have options," she said firmly. "Fight it head-on with the marriage certificate as proof of your stable life, or settle and keep things private. But once we go public, there's no going back." Aaliyah and I stayed up until dawn talking it through. She squeezed my hand and whispered, "I love you enough to step back if it saves your family." But stepping back felt like erasing us, like betraying the very truth that had given me strength after years of quiet hiding. The next confrontation came at the family estate. Elaine had gathered everyone for what she called a mediation dinner. Ryan brought his wife and kids, Lauren arrived with documents, and the air was thick with unspoken accusations. "Think of your nieces and nephews," Elaine pressed, her voice dripping with false concern. "Do you want them growing up with this scandal attached to their name?" I left that night with my resolve cracking, wondering if love was worth watching my brother and cousin turn their backs. The mediation dinner ended in shouts that echoed off the estate's antique walls. Ryan slammed his fist on the table, his face red as he finally turned on me. "You've always been the favorite, Kinsey, but this? Dad trusted you with the company because he thought you'd build it the right way, not turn it into some social experiment." His words cut deeper than any courtroom blow because Ryan had been my protector growing up, the one who shielded me from Dad's strict lectures. Elaine watched with satisfaction, her settlement offer still on the table like bait. Lauren slipped me a note on my way out. "Please reconsider for all of us." The drive back to Brooklyn felt endless, Aaliyah's text lighting up my phone with support that only made the guilt heavier. By morning, the company board had called an emergency meeting. As head of marketing, my position was suddenly under review, whispers of distraction and reputational risk floating through the executive floors. I spent the next 2 weeks buried in legal prep with Sarah, poring over Dad's medical records to prove he was of sound mind when he signed the will. But the real war was internal. Aaliyah suggested we take a short trip to our favorite cabin upstate to clear our heads, but even there the pressure followed. She admitted one night by the fire, "I'm scared too, Kinsey. Not of losing you, but of becoming the reason you lose everything else." Her honesty forced me to confront the trade-offs. My career trajectory, the family vacations we used to share, the security of the Thompson name that had opened every door. Back in the city, Elaine escalated by leaking select details to a conservative business blog, framing the dispute as a battle for traditional values. Stock dipped again and Ryan called in a panic. "Fix this or we're all going down." The betrayal stung when I learned Lauren had fed Elaine more details about my relationship, afraid of losing her own bonuses tied to company performance. The preliminary hearing arrived faster than I expected. In the hushed courtroom, Elaine's team painted me as unstable, a woman who had hidden her true self from her dying father. I sat rigid beside Sarah, Aaliyah waiting outside as we had agreed to keep her out of the initial filings. But when the judge scheduled the full trial for March, something shifted inside me. That evening, Ryan showed up at my door unannounced, his usual confidence gone. "Sis, Elaine's offering to drop everything if you publicly announce a separation and focus on family priorities. The board is behind it." I closed the door on him gently, but the crack in our bond felt permanent. Aaliyah held me as I cried for the first time in months, her steady presence reminding me why I had chosen this life. The following days brought more pressure. Board members I had worked with for years stopped returning calls, old family friends unfollowed me on social media, and the isolation settled like fog. Yet in quiet moments with Aaliyah, planning our garden or sharing coffee on the rooftop, the truth felt clearer. Hiding had protected them once, but now it was eroding me from the inside. Trial preparations turned our lives into a battlefield of strategy sessions and sleepless nights. Sarah advised a measured approach. Present the marriage as a loving, stable union without inflammatory details. Focus on Dad's clear intent in the will. But Elaine's team was relentless, subpoenaing financial records and even old emails where Dad had joked about grandchildren. Ryan testified in a deposition that he believed I had influenced Dad during his final hospital stay, his voice flat as he avoided my eyes across the table. The betrayal from my own brother left me reeling. He later texted an apology laced with excuses about protecting the employees' jobs. Lauren distanced herself completely, citing company policy when I reached out. The company stock continued its slide, forcing emergency investor calls where my name was mentioned in hushed tones as the complication. Aaliyah bore the strain with quiet strength, but cracks appeared. One evening after a particularly grueling prep day, she said softly, "Maybe we should consider a temporary separation on paper, just until this blows over. I don't want to be the reason your world burns." Her suggestion, born of love and fear, shattered something inside me. I refused, but the conversation hung between us like smoke. The media caught wind by late February, paparazzi snapping photos outside the courthouse. Headlines like Thompson heiress inheritance battle turns personal, fueled water cooler gossip across the industry. My assistant at work quit suddenly, citing discomfort, and board pressure mounted for me to step aside voluntarily. In a desperate family call arranged by Elaine, even distant relatives weighed in, urging me to think of the legacy and avoid dragging our name through the mud. The weight of their collective fear pressed on my chest until breathing felt impossible. The turning point came during a private meeting with Sarah and a consultant who specialized in high-profile family disputes. "If you want to win decisively, you have to lean into the truth," he said. "The court respects authenticity over optics." That night, Aaliyah and I walked along the Brooklyn waterfront, the city lights reflecting on the East River. She turned to me under a street lamp and said, "Whatever you decide, I'm with you. But don't lose yourself trying to save them." Her words unlocked the fear I had carried since Dad's funeral. The next morning, I instructed Sarah to amend our filings. Full disclosure of our marriage certificate, photos of our life together, and my intention to lead the company as my authentic self. Ryan called immediately after learning of the change, his voice breaking for the first time. "You're really doing this? You're choosing her over us." The line went dead before I could answer, but the question echoed long after. Elaine's team responded with fury, filing additional motions claiming emotional distress and demanding a psychiatric evaluation. The pace accelerated toward the final hearing, each day bringing new leaks, new confrontations, and a growing sense that the price of truth was about to be exacted in full. The courtroom on the day of the final hearing was packed with reporters, family members, and curious spectators. Sunlight streamed through high windows as I took the stand, heart hammering but voice steady. Elaine's attorney grilled me for hours on my relationship with Aaliyah, trying to twist our love into evidence of instability. "Did you hide this marriage from your father because you knew it would disappoint him?" he sneered. I looked straight at the judge and answered, "I hid it to protect his peace in his final months, but I never lied about who I am. My marriage to Aaliyah is the most honest part of my life, and Dad's will reflected his trust in me regardless." Aaliyah sat in the front row now, openly present after I had insisted. Her calm gaze gave me strength as I described the years of quiet support, the way she had stood by me through Dad's illness and the company's demands. Ryan took the stand next, his testimony faltering under cross-examination. Sarah exposed how Elaine had promised him a larger operational role if the will was overturned, turning his earlier betrayal into public record. He avoided my eyes as he admitted the pressure he had faced, the fear of losing his position and the family lifestyle he had grown accustomed to. Lauren followed, her voice small as she confessed to sharing private details out of panic over her own job security. The betrayals laid bare in open court felt like wounds reopening, but they also freed something in me. Elaine testified last, her composure cracking as she spoke of traditional family values and the need for an heir to secure the Thompson bloodline. The judge listened impassively, but I could see the shift in the room. During closing arguments, Sarah presented evidence of Dad's sound mind, including video messages where he explicitly praised my leadership. My own statement was short but irreversible. I will not choose between my love and my legacy. They are both part of me, and Dad knew that. The judge retired to deliberate, leaving the courtroom buzzing. Aaliyah squeezed my hand tightly in the hallway, whispering, "No matter what happens, we built this together." Ryan approached hesitantly, his face pale. "I was scared, Kenzie. We all were." But the apology came too late. The damage from months of pressure and leaked secrets had fractured bonds beyond repair. Elaine paced nearby, her lawyers huddled around her with grim faces. Hours dragged until the clerk announced the return. We filed back in, the air thick with tension. The judge's voice cut through. "The will is upheld in full. Mrs. Elaine Thompson's claims lack merit, and any further interference will result in sanctions." Gasps rippled through the room. Elaine's face drained of color as the full weight hit. Not only did she lose the shares, but the ruling included a clause stripping her of additional benefits she had claimed under the prenup due to bad faith litigation. The gavel fell again, sealing the irreversible moment. Reporters surged forward as we exited, cameras flashing while Aaliyah and I walked out hand in hand for the world to see. Elaine stormed past without a word, her empire of influence crumbling in real time. Ryan lingered by the elevator, his shoulders slumped. "The board wants a meeting tomorrow. Stock is already rebounding on the news of stability." His attempt at reconciliation felt hollow after the months of silence and side-taking. Lauren sent a text later that evening. "I'm sorry. I chose fear over family." I read it once and deleted it, the finality settling like quiet snow. Back at the brownstone, Aaliyah and I sat on the rooftop under the stars, the city humming below. The victory tasted bittersweet. Thompson Enterprises was mine to lead, but the family dinners, holiday gatherings, and shared history had been traded for truth. I had protected the legacy by refusing to compromise it with lies, yet lost the people who once defined it. In the weeks that followed, the company stabilized under new leadership announcements that emphasized innovation over tradition. I promoted talented outsiders to key roles, distancing from the old guard who had wavered. Aaliyah and I took a short honeymoon we had delayed, walking hand in hand through quiet Vermont trails where our marriage began. The peace we found there confirmed the choice had been right, even as occasional calls from distant relatives probed for reconciliation that never fully materialized. Ryan eventually resigned his operational post, citing personal reasons, and Elaine faded from society pages into private legal battles of her own. The price had been exacted. Reputation bruised in tabloids, career redefined through scandal, and blood ties severed by fear. Yet in the mirror each morning, I saw a woman who had finally aligned her identity with her actions. Dad's portrait still hangs in the executive suite, a reminder of the man who trusted me enough to leave everything in my hands. I run the company now with the same drive he instilled, but guided by a different compass, one that includes Aaliyah at every major decision. Our love has grown stronger through the fire, a quiet defiance against the world that demanded we choose. As the seasons turned and spring bloomed in Central Park, I realized the greatest inheritance wasn't the shares or the name, but the courage to live openly. Was Kenzie right to choose her love for Aaliyah over preserving her family's traditional legacy at all costs? Or did the irreversible price she paid prove that family honor should have come first? True or false?